Yo, good day, and welcome to another episode of the RoadFS Podcast. I wish I had thunder and lightning and storms, all kind of craziness. I know there's not. Rod just wants to push buttons, so.
There's no thunder, man.
Told you.
I'm just going to pour Jody's water bottle over his head.
That's all good. So we are live for another episode of the RoadFS Podcast. We have our guest, Giancarlo Rengifo. He is the man, the myth, the legend. He is battening down the hatches because it is stormy in Florida.
Yeah.
So what part of Florida are you in right now?
I'm in Fort Lauderdale. So
okay.
South Broward, borderline North Miami, about 20 minutes from the coastline. So
okay. So when does it change from just storming and hurricane season end?
Well, the storming never stops. So it's something we kind of deal with on all year round. The hurricane season, I believe now in November is when it finally ends. We've been pretty lucky this year, though. We haven't had any close calls. Some other places have, and they haven't been fortunate. But we've been fortunate to not have anything over here for a while now, for several years actually. This side has taken some hits in its past, but we've been lucky where it hasn't come in the past few years. I mean, I know Naples and the west coast of Florida have been hammered lately, but we've been lucky, and hopefully it stays like that for the next few months.
Well, yeah, I was actually just in Jacksonville a couple weeks ago, and hey, Richard, and it was there's no nice way to put it. It was so weird. I'd never experienced after a hurricane. And we were fresh into it enough that Jody he got stuck in New York. He slept in the airport. But it was so hot and humid after that. I had never experienced anything like that before, where it's just stagnant. Like, I don't even know what to say other than it's like Satan was teabagging you. It's so horrible.
Satan was teabagging you. That's funny. Oh my God.
I don't want to be teabagged by anything, let alone Satan. It is rough. It is, but you get used to it. It's part of living in paradise, I guess. It's not all the time, and it's funny because working and you kind of have to become a weatherman. I pay for I have the app from the Weather Channel, and there's other, AccuWeather and all this stuff, and I pretty much download all of them and see which ones are going to give me the best features, because I'll be working and then out of nowhere you'll get on my iWatch, it'll say a storm coming in your area within this time or that time. Within the next 15-20 minutes, heavy rain or light rain coming. And then that way I'm like, all right, I got to get this going. I got to get finishing it up. Or I'm leaving the house and where my customer's at, then I have to go check the map and see what it's going to look like and what it's going to look like in the next 3 hours. So that way I can assess the situation and be like, all right, well, we're going to proceed with this or not. Because the last thing you want to do is get stuck in the middle of doing a car and then it starts raining. And it's not so bad because, you can reschedule it later, but then it throws everything else off and it becomes difficult.
So that's just part of that adaptation. I mean, you've got to be very adaptable. And it's interesting this time of the year because people are going back to school and a lot of people's seasons are ending. I actually watched reports from some places in Canada and Montana where it was snowing.
Yeah.
So they're already getting winter weather up in the north. And so everything's transitioning right now. And the interesting thing about what you're going through today is that's kind of, in a micro aspect, that's what you have to do in detailing is you have to learn how to pivot. You have to learn what to do. I mean, you were telling us before we started, you're in your car because the power's out in your house.
So our whole block, I think it's more than one block. It was like 4 or 5. I would say this whole area around here, there was a huge lightning strike around 5 a.m. and they kept coming down, and out of nowhere, bloop, AC shut off, everything went off, and we're like, okay, cool. It's happened before. I mean, during hurricanes, the longest we've had was 13, 14 days without power. And that's rough. But and you talk to other people, I got friends in Puerto Rico that were 2 months without power.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, when you compare it to that, it's not that bad, but even just one day, it's, you start going nuts. Like right now, like the fridge is on, and I mean, not on, but I know that if in a few hours it doesn't get turned on, I'm going to have to go and turn on the generator and plug it up and do all that stuff to see when they fix it. Right now, I saw the truck, so hopefully it'll turn on soon. But yeah, you have to be ready to figure out that. It's never an easy thing, especially when you're dealing with Mother Nature. And then for the mobile guys, I had a shop. So when I had my shop, it was rain like this was not a problem. Oh, it's raining. You go inside, you do what you have to do. But around this time a year, it rains every day. So we have work, no one wants to spend money on a car wash detail. They don't want to do any of that stuff until the rain passes. And so it becomes difficult. There's, usually, and that's something I talked with my partner a lot, and I let him know, I'm like, hey, come August, June, August, the rain's coming every day. You may have sun out by the beach or, farther away. You could see it, but then you see the clouds coming in from far away. You have to like set yourself up for that. And it sucks because it does bring down business a bit. A lot of the car washing stations around here closed down and they can't do much. So right now they'll be closed. And so a lot, it's tough. It's tough, but you got to make it happen one way or another.
So how do you work around that, right? Because I hear it all the time. People are going, man, I don't have any business. It's slowed down. But it sounds like you've kind of built in how you're going to pivot, how you're going to plan for these seasons. So give us some tidbits on how you're juggling that craziness.
So this goes back to our conversation earlier that we had, and I sent you a little reel. I'm going insane. I'm going nuts. I can't sleep. No, it's tough, and you really never find a solution for it because we were just discussing this the other day, Brandon and I, where we have waves. Everything sometimes it's a wave, and I'll go 2-3 weeks nonstop where maybe I'll take Sunday off, but Saturdays and Mondays are straight through, Monday through Saturday, every single day, all the time. And then it dwindles down a little bit. And then you go through the bottom part of the wave where, so many things happen. So many things come into play. Right now, we just went back to school. So before back to school, everyone's on vacation. Everyone's out of town. So you kind of have to now navigate through that. So what do? We offer different services. So we're not just sticking to automobiles. Now we can service the marine industry. So if the marine industry, which usually in Florida is always moving, but it has its seasons. So right now the season is hot. It was high in the summer and it drops down a little bit. But what happens in that drop down is that everyone wants to get their boats ready for the winter. They want to get them, either they're going to winterize them and they're going to store them somewhere, or they're going to go out of town, go back up north, deal with what they have to deal with, and then come back down when the weather is nice and pretty again. And we have great weather all year round. We do have the storms here and there, but for the most part, it's 70, 80s is the average temperatures in Florida. So, come December, January, February, we're nice and toasty while everyone else is frozen. And that helps. That helps big time because it opens up different markets.
So let's talk just for a second about another market you guys are in, which is aviation.
Mm-hmm.
So how does aviation, you got to be prepared for almost anything because that plane might be saying, hey, I'm going to be in Fort Lauderdale on Wednesday and I need my plane detailed. You don't reschedule that because they're flying.
No. And it's, you better grab it now or it's gone, because there's many companies out there that will just snag it. Or the client may say, you know what, it's not that big of a deal. I'll wait till I get back to the other FBO, wherever it is that they're going, and they'll take care of it. But we do get calls where it may be, and it's difficult being in our area because we're so large. South Florida, what is Broward County, Dade County, and Monroe County, the Keys and stuff like that. It's all one thing, really. So, you know, and people say, oh, I'm in Miami, but in reality, you're in Fort Lauderdale. But just to get down to Miami is probably like 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. If I need to get down to the Keys, it may be 2 hours. So we do get calls every now and then. And a lot of times we try to make it, but it's just not physically possible. To where we got one about a couple of weeks ago. They called Brandon, and plane lands at 9 p.m. But then it leaves at 5 a.m. So it needs to get done between that time. Fine, I'll work at night. That's not a problem. We'll work through the night. We'll make it happen. But you can't be on the tarmac or in the hangars working without supervised personnel.
Right.
For them to pay that personnel can be anywhere upwards between 100, 200 an hour. And you're there for 5-6 hours. That's a cost added to them. So a lot of times what we had to do was we told them, look, we can try to make it there by 9 o'clock. Right now, you're calling us at 7 p.m. It's going to take me about an hour and a half to get down to the Keys. I don't see it happening unless we can stay, you know, or have someone watch. And then they came back and said, no, unfortunately, it's going to be too much of our cost. We need you now, like right here in the next 10, 20 minutes. So we're like, oh, crap. So we had to let that go. They did find someone else local to them. But it's difficult because, you know, you offer a service, a good service. You try to maintain these clients, do whatever you can to keep them happy. But things are sometimes out of your hands. And in that industry, it's like that. It's now or never. And we've ran into a lot of now and nevers. It's still a process that we've been working on. We have had breakthroughs, but it's an industry that it's not like any other. That's definitely what I found that out. You know, there's a lot of guys, oh yeah, plane. And if you're lucky enough and you have a client that's able to give you access to that field, it's great. But if you're starting from fresh, as we did, it is a task, but it's a task that, you know, nothing like anything else, that if you put your hard work into it and you really try hard, you're going to be able to eventually progress. And that's the stage that we're at. We're getting bits and tastes of, you know, little sample sizes of what it's like in the industry. But it hasn't gone to the point where we're feasting yet. And that's basically that. But it's going to take a lot of sacrifice, where that 30-minute window of you landing that job is crucial. So being at the right place at the right time. Sorry, guys, let me close this. I can barely hear anything with all this rain coming in. Being at the right time and at the right place is, you know, it's big part of it. But it's one of those things that we see it there. It's just we're trying to grab it.
Yeah.
It steps away a little bit. So we're making progress on that. And it's not easy. It's not easy when you try to juggle all three. And I get a lot of other detailers will ask me like, oh, well, you guys do this and you guys do that. That's amazing. And I'm like, nothing changes. It's still the same battles as I try to get the high-end clienteles with the boats, or the high-end clienteles with the yachts, or the high clienteles with, you know, exotic cars. You know, eventually one of them will come in, and that opens the door for you to many of them. And that's the stage that we're on now. But we took on that challenge knowing that the industry is changing. We have a lot more competition worldwide. I mean, it's nuts. It's getting really detailing is very, very popular, and it's taken on to another level. And I think that the people getting into the industry are benefiting a lot from the previous guys that set it up and set the standards. So now your regular DIY can detail a car and wash a car and get on top of it perfectly fine, with just the proper tools and knowledge. But that thing that gets you from that to the next level, to where people perceive you as saying, hey, you're that's all you can do, you're amazing. And I don't like it. Like I personally don't feel any special or anything different about being a detailer or being really good at it. Has some say, like it grew on me. Like it was something that I had to do so that I can get to where I want to get to. And now it's second nature. But it nothing really changes from each industry. Everything, all the mentality is still the same. You still have to be a businessman before you're a detailer. So, and that has to go within aviation, with the automotive industry, and with marine industry. So, but it's fun. I love it.
Yeah, well, and you can tell that. I mean, there's a lot of people that, you have a really good attitude. Every time we see you, you're happy, you're excited. Your family's super important to you, and your partners and everything. And you can tell. And I think that is a key to it. To me, my wife says this all the time at her jobs. She's like, tomorrow the whole industry could change, and we could all be digging ditches together. And that person that you're in charge of, that's your employee.
Sorry, I lost you guys for a second. Yeah, you have to be prepared to take on the next challenge or whatever it is. We're in a transition stage, I believe. I when I started, ceramic coatings were something that had just, they've been around for a while, but they were becoming very popular.
Yeah.
So
sure.
My mentality as I started detailing was, let's get the car as clean as possible and make it look as nice as possible, so that they feel okay, they feel happy giving you the type of money you're charging them. And that went from, well, how can I turn that into you are now you can offer much more. It becomes something bigger than just that simple wash and that clean. You're restoring these vehicles for these clients. You're bringing them back to life, per se, and you're adding a value now to their car. And so it was that transition from the mentality of, oh, just get it washed, get it out of the way and go, to, well, let's put a whole day of work into this and make this look as pretty as possible, and bring out an affection in that client that you've never seen before. That was probably that transition from that to that was huge, because then I saw that that's where the money was at. Like, the worth of all that work that you can put into it, it's much more valuable. And a lot of people just see it as, oh, I'm just going to go wash cars, get it over with, and make my money. But there's so much more to it. And that turned into so many other opportunities for me once I got into the detailing industry.
I think one of the challenges that I see in a lot of... No, you're good.
No, we're here.
So you're good. So can you hear? Oh, we lost.
We did lose.
So
him.
Anyway, we lost. We'll see if
he
comes back. But what I was saying is, I think one of the challenges that we often see that business owners face is like their worth, right? Because he talked about the value of a certain service. And I think a lot of times we get trapped in this mindset of that I'm only worth this much. My services are only worth this much. And so,
Right.
no,
There he is.
yeah, he's back. He's back. Well,
He's
maybe
gone. He's
it's
back.
the
Hello?
Hurricaning there. Yeah.
But
Hello?
hey,
there.
buddy, good to have you back. So, do we have you? I don't think we have him, but
Not
anyway,
all the way. Almost all the
we
way.
can see him,
We'll
but
see
he can't
him, but
hear
he
us.
can't
So,
But like you're saying is it's a series of expectations, and Richard mentioned that in his comment, that the expectations that you're setting with your customer are going to be what helps set your business up for success. And that is, I think that's one of the good things about,
There we go.
there we go, about your business is that
Sorry,
you're
guys.
setting expectations. Oh, you're good. We just
Yeah,
kept going.
we
We
just
just
kept
act like
talking.
you're still here. We were
So,
talking
yeah,
to
we're
you.
like-
You were answering the questions. It was great.
yeah, it's good.
So
what-
the expectations that you set up for those customers are what help you do that. And so when the expectation you've set with the client is that they're going to get that premium service, that above, just normal Joe Schmo car wash stuff, that's
Right.
when you get the client for life.
Well, and I think too, it's like valuing your work, right? Recognizing that, hey, this is a quick and dirty full detail, but if I'm offering you a ceramic coating, there's a different level of, as Rod points out, of expectation. There's a different level of worth and value that you're bringing to the customer. But I think a lot of people struggle in articulating that difference in value, and they're kind of sheepish about saying, look, this is a service and this is what it costs. And
Correct.
it's okay if you don't want it, because I may not want a full 5-year, 7-year, 9-year coating on my car. I may just want it quick and dirty and a nice coating on it, right? Just
Exactly.
nice, right. And so understanding that enables you to sell appropriately and to serve your customers appropriately.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest challenge, and not just this industry, in any industry, is to be able to show the customer what they're purchasing. Show them the value of why are they handing you over this money for what is it that they're receiving. And detailing is a luxury. It's something that we don't need on our daily basis. So we're very fortunate and blessed to be able to offer these services and be able to create, a business out of it where it's profitable. And I think that the biggest challenge for me in the beginning was realizing that worth. And the one way that I starting to understanding it was putting myself in that customer's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I am the client, and if I am the client, can I afford getting someone to work on my car and doing that type of work? Do I need it? Do I want it? What are the benefits from it? And so as I started asking myself these questions and putting myself in their shoes, I started realizing, well, I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend the money, which I won't, what am I going to expect in return? What do I want? And I started looking into vehicles and, asking clients what are their most important things. I mean, when I see a client and for the first time, we start talking, and then, I never start off with the work. I'm always, hey, how's it going? Nice home, nice car, whatever. We small talk, get to know that person for a second, and then ask them, all right, I'm here. We're here to detail your vehicle. What are your concerns? What are the things that are causing you to call me?
Yeah.
What do you want me to do for you? And then they'll go off, oh, well, this stain right here, or I got the scratch right there. Once I figured that out, it was, all right, people need me for certain things, whether they're silly and stupid, like my mats are dirty and I spilled something on them. Can you clean them? And I look at them, the rubber mats, they could have been easily cleaned outside with the hose, but they want more than that. That's a concern of theirs, but overall they want the detail. They want to feel special. They want to get into their car and feel good. They want to feel eager on driving their car. I like to use, I like to compare it to like getting a fresh haircut. Now, I know I didn't want to say it. I don't have much hair either, so I'm right there with you, buddy. But when I do go to the barber and I get a nice fresh haircut and I feel clean, I feel good. Well, my partner calls it Fresh Fridays. We like to go on Friday in the morning and get our haircuts before we start our day. We'll get like at 7 a.m. We're getting our haircuts by 9 o'clock. We're on the road, ready to go start our jobs. But we do that so that way, come Monday, also we're fresh, still clean, and we're ready to go through the week, feeling good about yourself. And that's what we bring to these clients when we do their cars. We make them feel good about themselves. Their car may have been ugly to you, but it's to them, it's everything. And that right there was the key for me to realize how should I charge? How should I do this? Because I was like everyone else that started, I'm sure, very cheap. You sell yourself short because in your back of your mind, you're feeling like, I don't know if I can sell this guy. I have to somehow sell this guy on giving me $100 or $20 or $50 so that I can wash his car. And I see a lot of detailers go in and promise the world. And don't worry, we'll take care of this. And don't worry, we'll take care of that. And the customer might go and show them a little scratch on a fender. And they go and they say, don't you worry about that. I'll handle it. And won't charge anything else. You know, they won't, they won't add that value of that little thing that they did to their service. And when I started finding myself vacuuming carpets with sand and dog hair for an hour or two, I started realizing, I'm like, wait, I can't be charging $30-$40 for this car wash, you know? But in my mind was, if I leave this stuff, this client's not going to want me to come back because they're going to say, no, that guy, he just does what he does and he's here to collect money. I don't want that. I don't want that type of business relationship. I want customers to call me to get what they need and me go meet their expectations or go above. Right. Because that's going to keep my client. But you can only do that so much if you're not getting paid the right amount. And that's where it was a battle. It was a tug of war between my inner self and my outer self. My outer self saying, hey, I need to pay the bills. I need to get food on the table. Yeah. My inner self was like, oh, but this guy is probably never going to call me back again if I tell him it's an extra $25 for that scratch removal. And then I started finding myself in that, well, they called you for a reason. Right. Right. If not, they would have done it themselves. And it goes to, and then I started putting myself again in a customer's shoes. Well, I can cook a steak right now, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be delicious, but it's not going to have that same type of taste maybe or texture or quality that the restaurant steakhouse down the street can give me. So paying them $60-$70 for a steak would be worth it if that's what I enjoy. Right. And finding that difference out and finding the clientele that it matters to was everything. As detailers, we find ourselves, because we know how to do the job, and then we see other people do it, like, oh my God, what are they doing? They're putting a brush to that car. Why are they doing that? Oh my God, they're horrible. I should teach them. I should go tell them something. I should offer my services. But sometimes we don't realize that they don't care. Right. They don't care. They just need to get the job done and go through their day. So that whole finding your price range and finding your value and worth, and then getting into the point where reaching out to those right customers that really want your business and putting that time and effort into that type of clientele was a game changer. And it really made it easier for me to get into the industry and continue to grow from where I started. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people struggle when they first start
you're wanting that, like you said, that ego. It's like, I got to get money, I got to feed the family. It's all about the money. And yeah, I'll clean up that dog vomit. I don't care. I'll do it. You bet. Absolutely. $50. You're trying to get that money. And then what you got to realize is, if that's something that's weighing on you, and I hate this. I saw a post yesterday. I don't remember who it was from, but they're like, if I were the king of the world, there'd never ever be a disgusting interior again. And I'm like, then you need to figure out how to get out of the clientele of disgusting interior.
Exactly.
Don't do that. Don't go do disgusting interiors if you don't want to do them, and figure out how to get yourself into a market where you don't want to do that. Not having the correct clientele, I think, is a major issue for people, because if you don't like dealing with the show car crowd, then don't advertise and market to the show car crowd. If you don't like dealing with the minivans with the Cheetos and the goldfish crackers, don't market to that group.
Right.
Find something that works for you. I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but I was talking to Chris DiGiovanni from Detailer's Roadmap. Last year, the search on Google for ceramic coating dropped by over 40%. So think about that for a minute. In a country with 330 million people, 40% of the searches for ceramic coatings went down.
That's an insane number.
Yeah, that's they either know how to do it themselves, they've already got it done. The market is changing and they want something else. We're all selling it as snake oil, and not to knock on Doug Reed's snake oil, but we're all selling it as something not what it is. So being honest with your clients and being upfront about it, right? My wife will never hand wash a car. Right, straight out. She will never hand wash a car. My wife will go to the Costco drive-through car wash, or it's me. And that's how it is. And she's been very open about that. I'm not going to go hand wash a car. That's your deal. I'll take it to Costco for $9. So when I take care of my wife's car, I don't put a high-end coating on it, because I know where that car is going to go. So I put a coating on it to help protect it, so that when I do it, I can just spray it off and rinseless, and we're good to go. But for her, that's just not her thing. And it's all about expectations. Anybody that's in a relationship, that's been married or had a spouse or had a girlfriend or boyfriend or both or whatever, about expectations, right?
Right.
From day one, the first time you come home later than your partner expected you to be home, I did not meet expectations because I came home at 2 a.m. drunk.
Nope.
Now the next time, meet those expectations.
I wouldn't go home.
Yeah. Don't come home. If you're going to be after 2, don't come home.
Just keep on walking.
You're better off to actually lay in the gutter and let somebody find you. Then those expectations are, you're in trouble. Anyway. Correct. So the thing with that, and the reason I bring that up, is you understand what those expectations are, and then you can see the mentality of your client.
Correct.
I expect, like you said, I expect the sand to be out of the floor. If I bring my car to get it detailed, I don't care if it's on your list. That's an expectation, right? There's a guy here in town, the detail doctor, and one of the things that bugs him really bad is when the center console's dirty, right? Because that's where the shifter is. That's where clients go. And it doesn't matter if they paid for the deluxe interior. That's going to be clean when they leave. That is
exactly.
It's above expectations, a little bit above. It's not 3 hours worth of work, but it's a little above. So I think people have to key into that mindset, right?
Yes.
If you want the package with the 5 services, you're going to get 5.5. And then that becomes, as Kirk Evans from Details Around Trevor said, that becomes your Big Mac. When they come to you, they expect this type of service. And that is how you, again, gain these customers for life. And, just like the weather you're dealing with, we all have to pivot. And I think that's in where you're at right now. You've learned to pivot with the weather cycles and everything, the weather apps. But in the detailing industry, we have to do the same thing. Springtime rolls around. It's a different type of service that you're offering, especially out here. We're in Idaho. It's about to turn crappy. Okay. It's about to get snow and nasty. And you said in the springtime, it's all about freshen up your car and get all that salt off the road, grime, blah, blah, blah. It's my birthday today. I'm 30.
John Ross, happy birthday.
35.
That's awesome.
So in the summertime, it's heat and nasty and it's hotter than blazes out here. And then now the fall comes and it's like you said, it's time. Hey, get your boat ready to put it away. Do the things you need to do for winter. So you got to go through those seasons
Right.
You gotta pivot with them, but you also have to pivot with the industry. And if the industry is going away from ceramic coatings, or if there's something new that came out, maybe you want to jump on that, get some training, learn how to change your business. Aviation, it's like you said, I'm glad you mentioned it that way. It's not a short-term thing. Somebody can't just jump into it tomorrow and be like,
I mean, you run into people that they've been blessed, like I said, that they have a client that can get them access into it, but it's not something that's night and day. And it's a difficult pill to swallow when you put a lot of effort into it. But that's like anything, it takes time, and it's going to take time. But if you don't start it, then it's going to take longer.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing I always look at is it's only going to take that one client to turn your business around.
Correct.
Because you can get a client that comes in and they're like, oh, I have this, I have this 5-year-old Cessna, and I want you to detail it. And you think, this is low end stuff. And that's their test model.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure, Richard.
That's his practice plane.
Right. And so then they go out and you do that plane and you do a really good job. And they're like, well, now let me show you this one. And you go inside and it's a $2.5 million jet, right?
Yeah.
It just takes that one. And not that that's always the goal. There's some places you could go that you could make a really good living just detailing practice planes where they teach people to fly, but they want that plane to look good. It's got their logo on it. Now it's a business.
Right.
So you got to navigate where you want to be, I think. And I think that's what's important in life as well as detailing. Where do you want to be in life? Do you want to wake up at 2:00 in the morning, or do you want to wake up in your bed and be happy and full fat and happy?
Well, and I like the emphasis that you put on time. I think all of us get very impatient with our growth, our trajectory, and when you mentioned that, I thought about a conversation I had with my brother years ago. He was 4 years into college. He was debating whether or not he was going to continue on to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me up and said, "Hey, Jody, man, I need to talk to you about this. What should I do? I'd really like to be a doctor, but man, I got another 7 years and the expense of it." And I said, "Look, Andy," I go, "Do you want to be a doctor?" He goes, "Yeah, I would love to be a doctor." I go, "Look, in 7 years, you're either going to be a doctor or you're going to wish that you paid the price to be a doctor. So don't get tripped up by the time."
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we get tripped up by the time and it derails us from our real goal of whatever it is.
Right.
Dude, he's a doctor. He's got 10 weeks vacation. I mean, he's living the dream, right?
Yeah.
But he paid the price of effort and time and investment in training. And I think sometimes we try to take shortcuts.
Well, I think a lot of the shortcuts, I mean, if we look back, not my younger years, let's say your younger years,
so the 20s we're talking about.
Yeah.
You're saying I'm old.
Yeah, exactly.
No, well, older than I am and much more wiser and experienced. Certain things didn't look as appealing to you back then.
Yeah.
Because social media has a huge factor in this, and it portrays an image of everything's grandy, everything's beautiful, nice and great, but people don't see the struggle. People don't see the sacrifice, the time that it took just for you to get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I say the industry is changing, where a lot of the newcomers are coming in saying, "Oh, I got it all. I got the foam cannon. I got the electric pressure cleaner. I got the newest electric vacuum with the cordless polishers." Great, awesome. And it's great that, and they're very fortunate because we went through all that other stuff for them to see it on social media, be able to see how you present yourself as a detailer, as a business owner,
right?
How you set your van up, or how you had your shop, the type of products you're using, the tools that you're using, all that, everything was displayed for them. and then they go and they mimic and go through it, but then run into a wall because they're not seeing the side that of what you did to get to that level.
Right.
And they may be lacking in some certain thing. We all do. We're not, perfect. So yeah, I could be great paint correction detailer or ceramic coating or PPF installer, but if my business side of it or if my social skills aren't to par, I'm not going to really get anywhere. So there's so much more that it takes to just getting to a certain level, to be acknowledged and respected in that field. And it seems that a lot of the newcomers see it as an easy, let's get it going. In a year or two, we'll be ready to go. I mean, the truth of the matter is it takes a business 3 years for it to become a business.
Yep.
Right.
That's how you know within that first 3 years if it's actually going to be profitable or not. And most people can't make it past that first year, second year, because they're, and I get it. I was there.
Yeah.
Back against the wall, lost a job, had to figure out how am I going to get some food on the table. My background was online marketing. So anything that had to do with computers and marketing and stuff like that, it was just, that's everything I dealt with. Never did I ever think that I would go start washing cars for money.
Right.
But back against the wall, you do whatever you need to do. I saw the opportunity, the light bulb clicked in my head, and I said, I'm going to go with it. I didn't see what it could take me to or what was the possibility. I did not know. It took me getting into that and being fortunate that my network around me at that time was saying, hey, you're washing cars? Come here, man, wash my car. You do boats too? Sure, come on, let's do boats. The whole time I'm like, yeah. I don't know anything about boats. I've never been, I've been on boats, but never. I had to learn all that stuff. I had to get out of that comfort zone and figure it out if I wanted to make it happen. The crazy part was I never knew what the end goal was.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a vision of what it would look like down 3, 4, 8 years down the line. I never saw any of that. So for me, it was like, all right, I know I can take this and make something out of it. I just don't know what it's going to be. I felt like a cook grabbing a bunch of ingredients, putting it in a pot, mixing it up, throwing it in the oven, and hoping that something came out that was looking appetizing. But it's something that I see now in the industry where they have that blueprint. It's there. There was no podcast when I was starting into detailing. There barely was any trainings. There was training and stuff, but nothing like that. There weren't groups. Things started growing very quickly. And I was fortunate to be at the right place at the right time and know the right people that helped me get to the next level. But that's what I tell these newcomers. Find yourself, find what it is that you want.
Yep.
What do you vision yourself doing? Oh, that I want to be detailing a Bugatti at one point in my life. Put that on your goal, write it down. I have a good friend of mine, Lewis, in Houston, and he told me to write down on my notes. He goes, I will be the best detailer. Da, 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 da. I will own my own detailing business. I started writing all these stuff that he started telling me to do. And he's like, it doesn't mean that you may get there today or tomorrow or next year. It may take 10 years down the line. But putting that goal down reminds you every single time of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yep.
And that was, to me, like huge, because that's what took me from the regular car wash to then, you know what, maybe I should go out to these car shows and start networking. Maybe I should go out to these boat shows. Maybe I should go out to the air shows, meet people. And that brought me into a whole different ball game. And now I get to choose, see what I like the most.
I think one of the key
love
things that I'm going to throw in here that I don't think people pay enough attention to this, is that you are a very approachable person. You are very humble. You don't have a cocky attitude. And I don't think people realize how important that is in business. If I come in with an attitude that I have all this knowledge and I am your savior. I'm
Right.
going to fix all that's not it. And there's too many people, in my opinion, that the challenge that younger people have today is they can see that blueprint, but they think it's easy. They see it and they're like, okay, I've done all the things. I've got the polisher. I've got the tattoos. I've got the attitude, and I've got the van with my name on the side. Come to me. And it's not going to happen. You still have to put effort into it. It's not automatic. It is work every single day, every single week. It is shifting and twisting and adjusting the knobs and making sure there's a new social media platform. I better go check it out because it could be the next thing. There's a new this, there's a new that. And I always tell people we're like 1 or 2 innovations away from changes every single day. And so you've got to stay up on it and you've got to be involved in it. And I think the key is you've got to understand your own value and your own worth and be humble to yourself. Not when I'm talking to Jody or talking to you, but when I'm sitting alone, I got to understand what I'm good at and what I'm not good at.
Right.
You were at Southern Detailers Conference, the last one. You were there, and Bernice Berry was doing PPF on a Corvette, and Jody went over there and tried to put it on the mirror, and he's like, I'm never doing this. I'm out. But he's very quick to assess his own value. So I'm like, I'm never doing that. I'm out.
Yeah.
So
I don't have the patience for that.
And I think that's the thing, is a lot of times when you do something, and I'm sure this has happened to you before, where somebody sees you doing something, they're like, man, I didn't even know you could do that. Like, yeah, that's because hey, Kirk, thanks. That's because the humbleness doesn't have people. You don't throw that out there, right? You don't just walk around like, I am the king of PPF, right? And I apologize if somebody actually is the king of PPF, but who cares?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it comes more from learning from my elders. My grandfather was very hard worker, tough guy. And he was an immigrant. He came here. He was the first of the family to come to the United States. And he took on he took on a lot of challenges just to get out here and do what he needed to do. But never thought of himself any less on what he did. I mean, he did everything. He was a tailor. He drove yellow cabs in New York City for 30 years, which is very, very hard to do. He's worked at supermarkets. I was actually fortunate to work when I was 16 during the summer with him at a McDonald's while he was like 70 years old, 80 years old. And he was just, he was just changing garbages and stuff like that. And I would see how he worked. He never cared about what his job was. It was always do the job as best as possible.
Right.
And I think like the humbleness, I guess, is something that it's in all of us. It's just sometimes our ego or wanting to be accepted and wanting to be loved and wanted by people and, looked up to, puts us in a position where we want to sound like we are the best or make ourselves look like we are the best at a certain thing. And it's a childish thing, not in a bad way. It's something that it's been born in us since we were kids. We want our parents' love, so we try to always make them happy. We want to be cool in school, so we want people to acknowledge us and want to. So you embellish things, or you try to make yourself look good, this and that. I looked at it as in, I am who I am. I'm gonna be, whether I have opinions. I go on Facebook every day and I see crazy stuff going on all the time, and I want to give out my opinions, but there's no reason to. There's no reason for it, because it has nothing to do with me. And at the end of the day, if I remain silent, quiet, and just listen, I may get more out of that. And I will also I will be looked at differently. I don't like to I don't. Just like when we started the podcast, you're like, oh, the man, the myth, the legend, humbled. But yeah, I'm a man. I'm the man here.
Yeah.
The myth, maybe in my household, the legend, but
legend in my own mind.
in my own mind.
Yeah.
But there's always people that are always going to be better than you. There's always somebody bigger that can come and punch you in the mouth.
Yep. Exactly.
You know,
that is one of the biggest lessons I ever learned is when I was younger, when I was a lot younger, I ran like distance racing and I was very competitive. And I got to a pretty high level and my father said something to me and man, it pissed me off because I was so high on myself about how good I was. And he said exactly what you just said. He says, there's always going to be somebody better. No matter how fast you are, somebody is going to beat that at some point. And I was so pissed. I was just, God, why would he not support me like that? And then I realized what he was saying. He was basically telling me to deflate my ego about it and just go out and do the best I can and have fun with it. Because at some point, that's going to be gone.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to take that over and be the best, you know? And so it's one of those situations where I've watched people do that their whole lives on things. Usain Bolt, right? Arguably the fastest man ever on the planet. Super cocky at the time he was running. Now he's not. And he's very humble about it. And he's like, yeah, I should have done this. I should have done that. And it's very interesting to see that because I think that people believe that in detailing, we have to be that cocky, I'm the greatest in the world. How do you assess that? How do you assess the greatest polisher in the world? You're not going to see it. It's not going to happen.
It has nothing to do with that. And I think it's just we get bored sometimes as detailers too. I'll tell you what, like the industry is like no other. I'm sure the electricians and the guys that the mechanics and the HVAC guys, none of those go to a convention and have the community that we have. But we are a special breed. So you're gonna have that competitiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between the competitiveness and then the ego. We all have to have an ego, but it's how do you let the world know that? Like how do you project and it's the way you project yourself. There's so many things that I look at my son and there's so many things that he can do better. My daughters, there's so many things that they can do better than I did. And that's the purpose. You want them to grow and be better than you. Yep. But then you look at your neighbor and he does something better than you and you already go, oh, well, why can he do it better than me? I can be doing it. And it's not, you have to accept where you're at and the position you're in. And not everybody has it the same. You know, he could be the best paint correction artist in the world, but he can't put coatings. He sucks. High spots everywhere. Or his vacuum. I love detailing because it makes me money, but I won't tell you that my vacuuming on the interior, it's like I try to make it as best as possible, and then I see other guys and they're just and I'm like, man, you guys much quicker with this and that. You can't put a best on that. You can't. You can't, because there's so many variables and people are going to be different. I could wake up tomorrow and feel like $1 million and I'll go do this job. And I'm sure you guys, sometimes there's days we wake up and we're like, oh man, I'm happy, this and that. And then you run into someone with a grouchy attitude and, you know, they're not doing so great, this and that. And their outcome won't be like your outcome. And then so their mentality is not your mentality. And you may come off as an ego person, very ego driven person, and that right there, you know, so you get the humbleness is not something that you just try to be. It's something that is kind of in you. And sometimes we forget about it. We forget, because I may seem humble to you guys, but I guarantee you there's times that my wife will tell you, calm yourself down. I just fixed the sink, honey. Look at me. And she's like, oh God, shut up. I'll go to the gym. 2 hours, come home with a crazy pump, and I'm in the mirror. Look, honey, look at her. And she goes, "You still look small." And I'm like, "What?" But that's, so we kind of have to sit back sometimes and realize, like, talk to people and realize, hey, look, you're not bullshitting anybody. Excuse my language.
You're totally good.
But it is what it is, and it's full of it. But people will eventually find out, and you run into a wall. You'll stump your toe, and then you get up and you say, all right, I gotta take it back a notch. I gotta stop running through the house because the toes are gonna be broken all the time.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, the thing about that is I always say this to people. I'm like, look, at the end of our lives, right? Jody and I may be sitting in a rocking chair next to each other, and we're probably not going to talk about how pumped up we were at the gym or how good we polished a car. We're going to be talking about other stuff. We're going to be talking about kids and grandkids and experiences that we had.
People we knew.
Do you remember that guy, Giancarlo, back then? He was a cool guy. Yeah. We're not going to be talking about what we did. When you notice when you meet somebody, especially in my only experiences as a man. So when I meet another man, they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And a lot of times the answer is based on the relationship. If it's a business relationship, you say, I run a software company. If it's you and I meeting on the street and we have no idea, what do you do? And I work on classic cars and I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
It depends on your relationship, but it also depends on what you want that projection of yourself to be. And right. I'm way more excited about kids and dogs and my hobbies than I am about my job.
No, you got that order wrong. He's more excited about dogs, kids.
And, yeah. So the thing about that is that's really what it comes down to, is what is the most important thing in your life, right? And I mean, tomorrow, one detail that broke me even right, exactly. The thing about it
that's
is
funny, Mike.
Yeah, but Mike, you have your dog's name posted on the side of your truck. I know your dog's more important.
That's funny.
If you think about like world-ending stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
When COVID hit and we didn't know what was going to go on and everybody went home, what was important? It was your family.
Yeah.
Your health. It was the next meal on the table. And if anybody's ever been in a situation where you're poor, and I'm not talking about like, oh, I didn't have enough money to go out to eat. I'm talking about like, you don't know where your next meal is coming.
Yeah.
You know what's important. And it's not your ego. It is not your ego. It is your ability to provide for yourself and your family and what your needs are. That's what's important.
That's well said, because that reminds me of something I've heard once. A poor man is not a picker or chooser when it comes to making money. Yet a person that is wealthy will pick and choose how they're going to make their money. And it's an explanation of what are you willing to do for your family, for the ones you love, for yourself.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that just do things that are not, out of like, how can I put it or say it? It's don't be ashamed in a way to do that work that needs to get you through that moment in your life.
Yep.
And then to always realize that that's not you. So you pick up garbage for a living, be the best garbage picker you can, but also realize that may not be you for the rest of your life. You can do so much more. It may just be the beginning and the part of that process. So we live day to day. We worry about the problems now, and then we start thinking about the problems of the future and this, and some think about the problems of the past and this and that. But if you focus on what you have to do now, your ego will be gone, because you need to do what you need to do at that moment.
Yep.
If your ego's there, you won't move. You'll stay stagnant, and that is a killer. So a lot of times people will have an ego, but eventually run into that part where they say, no, this is not taking me anywhere. I have to backtrack and refocus and approach it a different way. And I think we do that on a daily basis. You battle with it daily. We could be in a conversation and you may say something that I didn't agree with. My ego may say, hey, prove them wrong. Or I may say, you know what? I'm going to handle this a different way. Let's discuss it in this manner and go a different route. So
Yeah.
it's all perspective, I think, and it's the way you handle things, the way you can compose yourself too.
Right, and that's like we talked about at the very beginning. That's all about the change. And I one more story, and it's because I'm very proud of my parents for this. But my father worked as a truck driver, not a rich man at all. Worked as a truck driver his entire life, and he had his entire retirement built up in one company. And I was about 15 years old, and that company not only went out of business, but they said, "Oh, by the way, there's no retirement. We spent all that money trying to stay in business." And so he was literally out of a job and had zero retirement. And he was in his 40s. And by the time he retired, my dad's 81 right now. By the time he retired, he at one time went and worked at a Shucks Auto Parts. And then at nighttime, he was a janitor in a museum. And he did whatever he needed to do. He worked 2 jobs to get it done. And at the point when they retired, he had his house paid off and he had enough money to retire.
Right.
And it was very impactful to me to watch them go through that, but it was not something that he stressed out about so much that he made his life miserable or my mother's life miserable or anything else. He just did what needed to be done. He just went out and he got another job and he got a different job and he got a second job and he made it happen. And now they live very comfortably in a house that's paid off. They have RVs, they travel, they go out and do stuff. They have bikes. They're 81 years old and they just enjoy it.
Wow.
And it could have been a different situation. He could have been that guy sitting in a chair talking about how bad that company was that him over the coals and did all this stuff. He didn't do that. I've never heard him do that. He just adapted and moved. And that's what, valuable lesson, man. Just take what's given to you and make the best you can out of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, cool, man. We've been going. I can't believe it. It's funny because I wish I would have saved this and put it on my computer because Giancarlo sent me this little message, Facebook. He was like, "Oh, I'm all nervous. I'm not ready for the podcast." Right. And here it's been over an hour and we've just and I just said, it's just 3 amigos having a conversation. And it's great.
You said that.
Going. So but anyway, man, thank you so much for taking time. I know you kind of had the time because you're sitting in the storm, but
I'm already thinking of what I'm going to do for the next hour.
That's right. Generator.
That's it.
We gotta eat these popsicles. They're all going to melt.
That's right.
I think I'm going to, oh my gosh. Now that you reminded me, I bought popsicles.
There you go.
Popsicles.
Ice cream.
Baby.
Yep. So, hey, one thing that we don't do often enough is thank you for everybody that's tuned in.
Yes, thank you so much.
We really appreciate it. We've been doing this a really long time. This
2019,
is like our 5th year going on. Doing
almost
this.
5
awesome.
episodes. I think this is 488.
Yeah. And it's not these 2 guys that are doing it. It's the people on the other end, and it's the people watching this and the people that go and subscribe to the podcast. So thank you guys very much. This is something that Jody and I never imagined we'd be doing, but it's super fun. We enjoy it.
It's
it
the
gets
best
us
part of the week.
And we love to talk to people and find out about their stories. And just get to know people better. So thank you, everybody. And we will be next week.
Next week we will be live.
Oh, that's right. Colorado.
Tate Trout's place.
Oh, sweet.
And it is literally, I am very proud of this, but it is the first time we are having a training. It is not at Flex or Rupez's facility. So they are both going to be there. The first time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's going to be cool.
This has taken us a long time. It's over a year to get
Shout
these guys
out
to be there.
Trout and
so Tate's
going
to be really awesome. We're going to have literally, you're going to have Jackie Orlando from Pro. You're going to have Sarah from Rupez, Chris
Dustin
Metcalf,
Jackson,
Sarah,
Rod Puzey, Jody Cedric.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be everybody there. So tune in next week. We'll do a lot of live stuff. And
then we will be at Budco on Saturday.
Budco
so we have a packed week next week. So, but Giancarlo, thank you so much for taking your time. We have nothing but mad respect for you, Brandon, your beautiful wife.
Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Thank you for what you do.
The feeling's mutual. You guys are doing an awesome service to all those newcomers and all the old ones. Because we need to see the perspective from everyone's eyes in this industry. I think when we sit down in a room and we can talk things out and everyone gets ideas from everywhere, it makes things a lot easier and smoother. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you guys for having me on here again. It's an honor, definitely humbling experience. And I want to thank just like you guys were thanking all the people out there. I want to thank everyone that's supported the last video that we did, and all the comments and all the nice stuff that I got. So appreciate you guys. And I'm here if anybody needs any help with anything or has any questions.
That's
So,
awesome. So
man.
thank you so
Thanks.
much. And thank you guys for tapping in. And we will check you next week. See ya.
peace.